you're going to go to the lesser program because you're going to try and build something in 3 or 4 years, and then you could finish off a nepotism Sunday with some sprinkles and whipped cream and give it to your son.
Belichick signed with UNC in December 2024 after leaving the Patriots. Contract was 5 years, $10 million per year with up to $3.5 million in bonuses. The buyout clause, if he leaves before June 1st of this year, he owes $10 million. After that, it drops to $1 million. The controversy part of this is his 24-year-old girlfriend, Jordan Hudson, has been increasingly visible in UNC team activities, including rumored involvement in team decisions. Wild. Her presence reportedly caused HBO to cancel a planned Hard Knocks series at UNC. Wild. And then former players and media critics, for example, Patriot Ted Johnson, who I'm not familiar with, but have called on UNC to fire Belichick over the embarrassment of his off-field decisions. Now, let's first, before we talk about the business part of this and how frustrating it would be if I'm UNC and like HBO cancels something like that, because you know how good that would be for recruiting, you know how good it'd be how good it would be for the university, like all that. Before we get into any of that stuff, Bill Belichick is great. But is he worth this? Obviously, he comes with however many Super Bowls. He's got a great name, elite resume, all of those things, right? But by the same token, there was always a conversation, T.O., in New England on who would you rather keep, Tom Brady or Bill Belichick? Tom Brady or Bill Belichick, right? And everybody, well, not everybody, I will say, a lot of people said Bill Belichick. And most of it, to be fair, was about like the longevity of Bill over Tom. Obviously, Tom doesn't, can't play till he's 70, but Bill could keep coaching for another 20 years probably. As a guy, and I'll turn this over to you eventually, Tebow, but as a guy that played at the professional level, coaches definitely help. And, listen, there's a lot of scheming that goes on in the NFL that is helpful and all that stuff. But at the end of the day, the players who executes. So the coach, I hate to say it, is pretty useless unless he's got the right guy in the field. And we saw that with once Tom Brady left the Patriots. He never really found the next Tom Brady, which is tough to find. But the whole thought process was Tom Brady was this, run-of-the-mill athlete with decent arm strength that he turned into Tom Brady, quote unquote. Like his scheme, you could have a guy that is just, a run-of-the-mill athlete and be successful in Bill Belichick's scheme. Here's the thing. And again, I think this goes without saying, but again, here's the thing when it comes to all of this is you still need the headspace that particular position requires. He was and still is elite there. And so that plays such a role in all of this. I think for some reason, most people overlooked during Tom's career that a lot of the credit went to Bill. And, looking back, was it really him? Was it the fact that he was calling a lot of different plays, but he had a guy that was able to do whatever he wanted because he was so confident in his preparation and his work that he was going to win? Like he was going to those plays, no other quarterback could have completed. So was it really your play or was it the quarterback? And listen, we can go back and forth forever on that. But Tebow, put yourself in the athletic director's shoes here at UNC. You have an opportunity to sign a guy like Bill Belichick. Now, just by signing him, you're going to get a ton of media publicity. You're going to get you're going to get a lot of things that are going to surround this organization now. And you're probably going to bring in a ton more money for the university, so on and so forth. But you're in these negotiations, and it seems like this girl, who is his girlfriend, seems to be a bit more involved than you were anticipating. Now, you're weighing here at the UNC level is, okay, well, do I want, it'd be great as the athletic director of a mid-tier football program to sign this kind of a coach, but I got to deal with this. And is this the right move? Is this baggage worth signing this guy? So put yourself in those shoes, Tebow. I'm curious your knee-jerk reaction to what's going on over there. Is Bill worth this?
Well, I think if you're the athletic director, number one, you're close enough to the program to, if you're making a big decision like this, my guess is you're going to be around the program. You're going to be around spring practice and seeing how the operations are going. So I think you're going to have more of an inside baseball look into this situation. Yeah, this interview that aired on Sunday was really sad, I think, all around, kind of ugly. A classic, I call it a production trap where, that edit. I mean, I'm sure they sat down for an hour and probably talked for 40 minutes, and that 8-minute segment was brutally edited.
Mm-hmm.
And so somebody that's in production, I can even say, like, man, I would love to watch the full 30 minutes there to get the vibe of what happened there, because, they definitely edited her to make her look like a witch, which is sad because at the end of the day, I think, she's just trying to live her life. Bill's trying to live his life, and they're in the spotlight. So it's like a two-parter. If you're the athletic director, you know what's going on. So I guess what I was trying to say is this interview comes out. Now the waterfall happens. Now HBO, reports HBO canceled this and that. And like before all that started coming out, we saw on social media, she's walking around on the field doing things, and she's on the emails. Okay, like what's going on in there? And then this comes out, and then the waterfall starts. So I think if you're the athletic director, you had some inside looks into what's going on. I think there's two routes. Yeah, there's like two routes to go, I guess, in my opinion. If I'm the athletic director, I'm bringing in Bill and his staff. I'm bringing in Bill one-on-one and being like, hey, what's going on here? Is this your girlfriend? And it was going to be like a fun team. There's always the stories of Nick Saban's wife was always, loved having the guys over for barbecues on Sunday, and loved being a part of the team, and was always a vocal supporter. Is this going to be your girlfriend, or do we need to make an announcement that she's officially your PR rep? Do we need to hold some type of announcement that she's officially on staff? Because you can make the argument that if Bill is saying, okay, my 24-year-old girlfriend needs a job, so she's going to be the my media director, which again is a nepotism hire, but that happens all the time.
All the time.
Whether it's Cantor Fitzgerald, the CEO, leaving and he gives it to his son, like that's a nepotism hire. There's probably 100 other people who are more qualified to be the CEO of Cantor Fitzgerald than his son, but his last name is Fitzgerald, so he gets it. Because if you told me that if Bill Belichick's girlfriend is Bill Belichick's media director, officially hired by UNC, and she's in the corner barking like, "Hey, we're not talking about that," then okay, well that's the media director saying we're not talking about that, even though maybe it's about her. It's like, hey, we had a book deal with Scheinman and Schuster. We're here to talk about the book. We're not here to talk about Instagram posts. That's not what we were informed that we're coming here to talk about. So you've seen that in interviews all the time with celebrities and personalities. So there is a validation of somebody in the corner barking to, this mid-level CBS interview guy that's trying to get the buzz story of the week. And which is what he was going for, clearly. And Bill Belichick was blindsided by it, because then the emails are released that he had with Scheinman and Schuster was, hey, I want to talk about the book. I want to talk about my career. I want to talk about my life. That's all I want to do. And then he walks into the interview and gets the girlfriend questions. So I'm playing both sides of the card, where if she is your media director, but it's not been officially announced, so then it looks like she's been involved in a lot of ways, and now she's yelling at the interview guy for going off script, but she's not officially like the PR director. So you got to have some type of announcement, and people would make fun of you for it, but then at least you could explain that away. But the way it is now is, yeah, it's not a good look at all. And
no, I mean, listen, and I do this in my own company. Now I don't have this issue, but I do this in my own company when we're talking about making decisions that may or may not look bad or what have you. It might be the right decision, might be the wrong decision. Perception is reality here, right? So if you're going to hire your girlfriend or wife to be your publicist or your PR person, right? Media director is how you said. If you're going to hire her to be your media director, you have to understand, whether you like it and agree with it or not, you have to understand you're going to get backlash for that. You have a longer runway now to make sure that this becomes like real and people start respecting her in her role, right? That's with any girlfriend or wife or child, whatever you're doing. You have a longer runway now to make this something people respect, because the first thing is going to be that. You add into that equation that the girlfriend is 30 years younger, 40 years younger, however old Bill is. You add that into the equation, that runway just got a whole lot bigger, right? And then you have this stuff, right? Of course, this is how the media game works. They were going in there, and I bet you they had the pre-production meetings where the guy was like, well, he said this, but like, guys, don't we have to ask about this? How do we have this interview and not ask about this, right? Like, we have to. And they were probably going to try to manipulate the conversation so it led there, and then also have the question kind of about the book and his personal, like how this is coming about. Was the book about anything in his personal life? Could they wrap around into this? They're going to do that too. But if you're Bill and you're assembling your team, and one of those people has a title of nepotism on them, whether or not it's a kid or it's whatever. They have a much longer runway to figure out, or I guess a much shorter runway. It's a longer period of time, but it's a shorter runway in this theory. But you understand my point. They have to gain respect, and it's going to take a lot for them to gain that respect. And so it's a tough thing to do. It's not an easy thing to accomplish. And then again, in this type of high, visibility, a ton of information coming out on these people. I mean, I saw, a friend of the podcast, KFC over at Barstool, he put out, I think, one of his 1 Minute Man videos, and supposedly within, a very short period of time of Bill and her dating, all of a sudden she had acquired like $8 million in real estate in her name, obviously. And whether it was Bill buying the houses for, being for them both and what have you, the real estate's in her name. Why? Who knows? It could be any number of reasons why. But that doesn't look great, right? It doesn't, whether you like it or not, it doesn't look great. And if you want to do that, listen, it's your life, it's your money, whatever you want to do. If you believe that this is true love and you want to do it, or you don't believe it's true love and you're just, hey, listen, I'm dating a 24-year-old and I have $70 million in the bank. I can give her 8 to buy some homes. Don't care. Okay, listen, go nuts, dude. It is. At the end of the day, it's your money. It is. Go nuts. But the perception when you're trying to run a university's program, which, by the way, this university has expectations of you bringing them to the next level. If you expect to run this football program as not a circus, listen, whether your girlfriend likes it or not, you better either, again, really button up your public perception, because you're going to have media outlets that are going to try to do this to you. Button up your public perception and really go full steam ahead. Like you said, TiVo, let's have a plan with the university. She's much smarter than everybody thinks she is. She's not just some 24-year-old bimbo. Like, she's good at what she does, and we need to get her in front of the camera or in front of outlets to show that so people can start gaining respect for her. I will refer to call her daddy. I didn't know much about either of those girls. And, when they were going through this whole thing with Dave, years and years ago, I think I saw some type of video, or I listened to what Alex Cooper's side of it all. I watched a lot. I consumed the content, as they say. I gained a lot of respect for Alex in that process. She was deliberate with what she was doing. She was trying to leverage what she had built, so on and so forth. And whether or not she treated Sophia fairly or not, or whatever, remains to be seen. I guess only they will know at the end of the day. But I gained a lot of respect for her. In the beginning, just from the outset, her public perception to me was, this crazy podcast that these women listen to that is just as raunchy as it gets. And now it's like, oh, you see the business behind it, and she's got a smart business mind behind it. Okay, I gained respect for her in the business community, at least. But it took a long time, right? Because I didn't even give her the opportunity. And so again, when you're doing this from a business standpoint, you almost have to have a plan. If you're going to do this, you gotta get her out in front of people. You gotta start leveraging that to gain respect for her and her position. Otherwise, it's a long road ahead. You're just going to constantly listen. It's already, people are going to talk about your relationship because of the age difference. Now she's working for you, and she's working for the university. What does she know? I have no idea what her resume is.
I think she. No. I said that's how she's acting. I don't think that's the official role.
But so I'm saying she's acting as if she's the media director, right? Let's say her official role is that. What's the resume here? How is she? And maybe it's a great one. Maybe she had great starts. Maybe she went to Harvard and built up this, this great education, and then for 3 years worked, or 2 years out of college, worked for this high-end firm, and she's solid. She's good at what she does. Perhaps she is. No one has any freaking clue. And again, you don't need to justify to me what her resume is. At the end of the day, it's your call. But from a public perception standpoint, if you want her to be respected and you want the relationship to be, I guess the relationship, you don't really care. right? But if you want her position and this type of thing coming out, because like you said, TiVo, if this was anybody else, doesn't matter if it's a woman or man, doesn't matter any of that. If this was a young woman at 24, 25 years old that was not Bill Belichick's girlfriend, and she had said, hey, we're not talking about that, it wouldn't even have been clipped. It wouldn't even come out, probably. And if it did, it would have been like, oh, he clearly doesn't want to talk about his relationship. But because it's not, and it's her, you see how the twist becomes. Now she was, I think the first line of this clip from like the voiceover was, she was very present during the entire interview. And it was like, okay, so you're leading us to believe that she's controlling this whole thing. Whether that's the case or not, she may be a lovely woman who was there to help Bill because Bill is a nice guy. It doesn't seem like one, but Bill's a nice guy and has a tough time saying no to questions. And she's just supposed to be there to say no to the tough things, which, by the way, not uncommon for anyone that doesn't know. Anytime that and again, I was small time potatoes compared to Bill Belichick, but if we had interviews, one, they were approved first by the Boston Red Sox, and two, sometimes they would sit there with you. And if there was a question they didn't like, they'd interrupt. No, he's not going to answer that. That never got clipped, No one ever, it's not unusual for somebody to chime in and be like, hey, no, that's not a question we're not going there. It's not unusual, but again, because it's the girlfriend, there is, whether you like it or not, there is more legwork for you to, as a university, as a head football coach, there is more legwork for you if you want the public to respect this decision. It's just the name of the game. It is. It's the name of the game.
It was a good discussion, but like the whole thing just feels odd. I mean, they met 3 years ago on a flight, so it's like she's 21, Bill's 62, and he's signing her textbook. It's like, what?
Yeah, I mean,
what?
it's crazy. Like,
the truth will set you free. I just think, hey, we're having a good time, and I'm giving her money, and I don't know.
Yeah. Again,
you hate to see your heroes. You end up in a predicament.
Yeah. I mean, listen, he's certainly not my hero. I was, to be clear, on the Tom Brady side of who would you rather keep? Because, again, with everything that I had said prior to this, I also, listen, when you're doing these things and you're starting to see a guy like Bill Belichick with that resume, not really get any calls for the NFL head coaching jobs, not get a Texas, and again, not that those coaching jobs were open, but that kind of premier program calling. And you're falling all the way to a UNC after winning how many Super Bowls with the New England Patriots?
I think in defense of Coach Bill, we don't know who was calling, per se.
We don't know who was calling, but we have to understand that if you're Bill Belichick is not entertaining the University of North Carolina football job in a normal circumstance when he has other opportunities. I'm not saying it's definitely not happening. It's unlikely.
I don't know. I mean, Bill Belichick's dad coached at UNC, so there's that tie, and he wants a program clearly that he can control. Embrace debate. I think
no. But here's the thing. I agree with you. But I'm saying, listen, the dad thing, fine, whatever. A program he can control. See, now that's when we're starting to get into the weeds again, because if he's saying, hey, listen, if I'm going to, let's say maybe all 30 teams in the NFL called him, and part of his demands was this, and this. And I think we actually saw this. So correct me if I'm wrong, Tebow. Didn't we see some owners and GMs call Kraft and ask? And Kraft was not super flat. Didn't say super Kraft, great things.
Definitely. I just think he's on the back end of his career, so I don't think there was ever 30 teams calling him. There were a couple that wanted to kick the tires on it. And in the NFL, do you want to give your control to the mid 60s Hall of Fame coach? And I don't think if you want to break it down like that, then I agree. Yeah, he's probably not going to get a job, because if you give him total control and he does your draft process and cleans house, and no GM wants to hire Bill Belichick, because then he's basically out of the job, just like when Chip Kelly got hired at the Eagles. They threw Howie Roseman in the closet for 4 years, but he came out on the other side and is now a Hall of Fame GM. So if you're going to hire Bill Belichick at this age, you're basically firing your GM and letting him control the team. Where does he drive it? And he's only going to stay for 3, 4, 5 years tops. So in the sense of hiring Bill Belichick, I'm with you. It wasn't the most brightest thing, but I don't think that's because of his past accomplishments per se. I just think the future's not as bright as the past. And if we bring in another runway example, the runway is much shorter for what you're going to have to endure for the changes that he's going to make.
No, that's a very good point. I would agree with you. When you're talking about giving up complete control over over a program or a franchise. So perhaps it just wasn't the right fit. Perhaps they had a up and coming GM that they really believed in. Maybe the few teams that called, or perhaps they had a really well established GM who was not going to give up control to Bill Belichick. My overarching point, high level point, is clearly there was a reason, or a multitude of reasons more likely, of why whoever called Bill, all the way down from the Super Bowl to UNC, things didn't work out. There was probably a bunch of reasons. It's probably some different. There's nuanced reasons for each call, right? But there was reasons. And a guy like Bill Belichick, who's got that many Super Bowl rings, and again, maybe UNC because of the family history, but maybe that was fun. I don't know. But when you start seeing what's coming out about what his requirements were for who was getting, I mean, I don't think it ever actually ever happened, but I think at one point there was a rumor that his successor had to be his son.
Right. I was just about to say, if we're making a nepotism Sunday, how about some whipped cream and sprinkles? You're going to go to the lesser program because you're going to try and build something in 3 or 4 years, and then you could finish off a nepotism Sunday with some sprinkles and whipped cream and give it to your son.
Oh my goodness!
Which clearly wouldn't work out of Texas.
No, what a great way to start my Thursday morning. With a nepotism Sunday. Let's get some whipped cream and sprinkles on here. That was iconic TiVo right there. That was iconic TiVo. Why not? Let's get some whipped cream and sprinkles in here, folks. And let's get my son the next head coaching job. But anyway,
we got girlfriends. We got girlfriends with $8 million real estate portfolios, head of media jobs. We got sons, defensive coordinator positions. It's just an awesome nepotism Sunday.
Listen. It is a
Let me get a scoop. I want a scoop.
Yeah, my last name could be Belichick if you wanted to be.
No, I'll change it right now, bro. Let me get in.
All right. Let's tie a bow on this, TiVo. Let's tie a bow. Let the folks get back to their day. We'll end it here. If you are the UNC AD as it stands right now, with what's going on right now, what is your next move? I'm not saying you're firing, or whatever. You're not firing.
No.
What is your next? What are you doing today as the UNC AD?
I am bringing Bill into my office, closing the door, unplugging the phones, unplugging the laptops. No other media. I'm looking Bill straight in the eye, and I'm saying, "Hey, does Jordan have any friends?"
There you have it, folks. And there you have it. I did not see that coming. Well, listen. There you have it. I will end on a more business note, but yes,
I'm half serious, half joking. I'm like, all right, this ship is clearly going to burn. Might as well have a piece of arm candy on my hand as well. If I'm some 60-year-old director, and I guess I'm divorced too in this scenario. Like, I need a little arm candy. So does Jordan have any friends?
Yeah. Well, listen, you might as well
We're going down swinging. That's my.
We're going down swinging. I love that. I do. I love that. But if I'm the AD, I'm bringing in Bill, and I'm bringing in. I just don't know Jordan's personality. I'm probably starting with Bill and our PR team and saying, hey, listen. We have to figure out what her role is. Maybe they've already done this, but figure out what her role is, and we're already behind this now. There's no getting ahead of it. But we have to start figuring out how we're going to frame her with university, and we need to start doing this. If she's your media director and we love that, let's get that in front of her. Let's get an article in the Post about her. Let's do this. Let's do that. That's friendly media. That's going to talk about how good she is and blah 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 blah. Just so people can you'll start turning people slowly but surely. And let's do things that are going to get her out in front of people. Let's get her in front of this, doing some charity. There's ways to start manipulating her image. And right now, it's not a great image. Let's just call a spade a spade. It's not a great image, which is then in turn not a great image on you, which is then in turn a bad image on the university. So we have to figure this out. So the best way to do that, I think, is let's get some positive PR for her, some positive PR for you. Let's get it out in front of folks, and let's just start flipping the script here. And if she's going to act as our media director for your stuff, great. That's no problem. She obviously protected you in that interview, which is what you want your media director to do. So that's not a problem. But let's talk about why. Let's figure out why she's doing it. Does she have a resume? If not, we'll figure out one. Let's figure out a way to get people to start respecting her in her new role. Because again, right now as girlfriend, the way everybody talks about this online, nobody's respecting her as her girlfriend role or him as the boyfriend role. Like that relationship, that's a whole thing right now. But from a professional standpoint, let's see if we can't get some respect on her name and move forward that way. So listen, TiVo athletic director is going down with the ship, trying to find a 24-year-old girl to go with him. Pat, athletic director, is trying to get a better public perception of this young lady and her role with universities. Two different routes. Both have good points. But TiVo, let's put a cherry on top of this nepotism Sunday. You got any plans coming up for this weekend? I got my brother's wedding. A friend of the pod, former host of the pod,
family member of the pod,
the pod. Big wedding day for Sean. You got any plans this weekend, TiVo?
No, I gotta lay low. I gotta rest.
Yeah, I think you need it.
Yeah,
I think you need it.
Yep,
we will bury your ashes or spread your ashes on turn 3 of the Talladega or whatever it was. we will do that.
Great. That's a real fan of my social media stories, by the way.
Yes,
that's a real fan.
I am. But until that day, I hope everybody had a tremendous weekend. We are now into the month of May. Happy Cinco de Mayo for those folks listening on Monday. And guys, I hope you have a tremendous week ahead. And until next time, guys, we'll see you.